What up? Hello again, you JDM cultist. We're back again with another car that I can only describe as being just an absolute shocking surprise. This is a 1997 Mitsubishi GTO MR. Now, you might already be familiar with the GTO. Over here in the US, we had it as the 3000 GT, which you could get the 3000 GT in the VR4 model, which meant that it had a manual transmission, four-wheel drive, and a twin-turbo 3-liter V6 engine. In Japan, most of those specs were exactly the same on the highest trim GTO models, where you get the manual transmission, the four-wheel drive, and all the other goodies. There was always an issue with this chassis. See, here in the US, the 3000 GT has a bit of a reputation for being very, very heavy. And the heaviness came from the fact that these cars were loaded with just way too much technology out of the factory. It was kind of their calling card in the 90s. Every manufacturer had some sort of wacky, weird, wild invention that would make the car somehow better. The Skyline had four-wheel steering. The RX-7 had sequential turbos, much like the Toyota Supra did. But Mitsubishi just decided that if one gimmick was good, then why not have like 40 of them? Thus the addition of four-wheel steering, thus the addition of the rear active aero. And ultimately, what it did was just make the car really, really heavy. Now, it is a very classic GT cruiser. It's comfortable, it's fast, it's big, it's long. It does all the GT things right. But when the other GT cars were, a few hundred pounds lighter, this thing ended up suffering in acceleration and in braking. But in a seemingly petty and intentional act of revenge, the Japanese never ever want to give us their best work. We're all familiar with the famous examples such as the Nissan Skyline or the Mini Katapo BJ. But this is another unsung hero that we never got here in the US. See, Mitsubishi went back to the drawing board and they fixed all the original sins of the 3000 GT and the GTO. They took this thing, they gave it better brakes, they took all of the bullshit, redesigned the clunky and old late 1980s styling of the thing and gave it fresh, modern, sleek, and exotic lines, which I think look just absolutely ridiculous on this car. It's a car that I've tried. I sat here for 5 hours trying to set up this camera angle, and nothing I do will do the car justice. It looks so amazing in person. Funny enough, this car's best angle is when it's driving behind you and you catch a glimpse of it in your rearview mirror, and for a second, your butt puckers because you think that you're being followed by Batman. No, Mitsubishi fixed everything on this car, not just the styling. In fact, all of the original gimmicks that the 3000 GT and the GTO were known for are gone. Through a series of numerous upgrades, modifications, and changes, Mitsubishi got this car all the way down to, all while managing to improve other things around the car as well. The result is the GTO MR. I believe stands for Mighty Racy. If you don't believe me, that's fine. I'm a curly-headed idiot who's talking to you through an iPhone camera. But who you should believe are the Japanese reviewers that took these things out and put them up against some of the best cars of the mid-1990s. This car went up against the R33 GTR V-Spec, the R32 GTR V-Spec, Supra RZ, NSX Type R, NSX Type 0. It went up against every single thing it could, and it held its own really well. I always think the most impressive videos of these cars are when they put them up in a straight head-to-head 400-meter or quarter-mile drag race. They do incredible. The wheelbase, the track width, the four-wheel drive system, and the grunt that this 3-liter gives you all lend it to being really, really good at launching. Around the track, it's pretty good as well. This thing posted really good scuba times when they put it up against other different cars. Honestly, best motoring at this point to me is like a historical document of all of these cars that I and the people watching this love so dearly. It sounds dramatic, it sounds kind of corny, but I think that they should be more recognized for what they did. They took these cars and they were brand new. They flogged them, took them to their limit, and then got metrics on them. They took brake temperatures, they took lap times, they took 0 to 60, they took 0 to 400 meter quarter miles, they did top speed runs at the high speed ring that you've seen on Video Option and Best Motoring so many times. These videos are incredible. Anyways, that's a rant. This car is also incredible. I did not know anything about these. We at Hoshi Motion are always looking for different and cool new cars that we can bring over and find good examples of for you guys. And this is just one that came up, and we knew that the MRs were very rare. We did a little bit more research and found out they made less than 500 MRs. So this thing is a very, very unique relic. And we decided to buy it. But we bought it because we thought it was cool. That's how we buy everything. As long as it's not rusty and cool, we buy it. But this car kind of sat in the back of our heads for, the next 2 to 3 months while it was going through shipping and on the boat and customs and things like that. And then we went to go pick it up and bring it back up here to North Georgia, where Hoshi Motion is headquartered at. And, well, we drove it. And it blew our minds. This car has to be one of the scrappiest underdogs I've ever had the great pleasure of experiencing driving and getting to work on. It's just fantastic. My whole understanding of this platform, the GTO 3000 GT, was that it was heavy and it didn't do anything particularly well. And ladies and gentlemen, I am here to declare that this GTO has Evo syndrome. Yes, that's right. A term I've just coined. This car suffers from Evo syndrome, where it is constantly punching above its weight. Not literally, because it weighs a lot, but it punches above its weight in terms that it can take on cars that in today's market are seemingly much more expensive than it. It can take on cars that are seemingly much more popular than it is. And it just does everything very well. The acceleration of this car, bonkers, mind-blowing. Let's play the video again of it racing the R32 V-Spec. Yeah, I said the same thing. Jesus Christ. It handles really, really well. Now, this is mostly due to the fact that its wheelbase and track width are very, very favorable for really high-speed cornering. This thing is super planted, super duper stable, and it just urges you, it like eggs you on to drive it harder and harder and harder. This one's wearing some Hankook Ventus V12 Evos, have about a 280 treadwear rating. They're a good tire. They're a good street all-seasons tire. But they're nothing special. They're not an RT660. They're not an R888. They're not, what is it, the Bridgestone, the RE71. They're not something designed to be like, you know, cutting edge tire technology. They're just a really good tire. And this car ends up doing the rest. Top speed is fantastic because this is the later model of the GTO, meaning it has a 6-speed transmission. So it's geared for 212 miles an hour. I'm going to say it again. It's geared for 212 miles an hour. I personally haven't done 212 miles an hour in it. But I've gone pretty fast. For legal purposes, I won't say how fast I've gone in this car because that would be stupid. I've got 140 in it. And it's very, very stable at those speeds. Adding on to its stability at those speeds, this car is very, very comfortable. One thing I'm always disappointed in when I drive Mark IV Supras is just the fact that from a Toyota, the thing feels a bit creaky and rattly and stiff and jagged over bumps. It's a GT car, yes. The interior feels like a GT car. It's quite comfortable to sit in. But on the road, it's not nearly as comfortable as this. The seats are incredibly comfortable. The suspension is a very, very fair and balanced compromise between handling and how sore your ass is the next day. And it just works everywhere. I could drive this car thousands of miles. I drove this car actually back from the port in Savannah, which is about 310 miles up here to Hoshi Motion. And it was one of the most enjoyable drives I've ever had back from the port. I've driven everything back from the port. I've driven Pajero Mini K cars. I've driven Mark IV Supras like we've been talking about. I've driven really highly modified drift cars that have 14 degrees of front negative camber and no AC, and you know I got to roll the windows down so I don't die of carbon monoxide poisoning. I've driven everything, and this is probably my favorite that I've ever had the pleasure of driving back. All right, I've gone too grandiose and I've ranted about the car too long at this point. We should probably talk about this particular car, what's good about it, what's bad about it, the condition, how many miles it has, things that I should probably know. This GTO, as I've mentioned before, is an MR, so it's a very, very rare special edition model, and I bet you're probably not going to find one anywhere else anytime soon. They'll come up, they've been coveted, they're very special cars, but it's going to be really hard to find one. This one particularly is wearing these 17-inch wheels. They have 235, 45, wait, hold on, let me make sure, hold on. This particular one is has got these 17-inch wheels on it. These are from a company called Monza Japan. When we went to Tokyo Auto Salon last month, I tried to pull up a picture of this car on my phone to show to the people at Monza Japan. They didn't really seem to care. But the wheels look pretty nice. They are 17 by 8. They have 235, 45, 17 tires on them. Like I mentioned before, Hankook Ventus V12 Evos. They're in really good shape. Lots of treadwear left. The paint is really good on this car. It's black, so obviously you're going to get your typical weathering, you know, hazy little scratches and stuff in it that you would expect from black, but it's really not that bad, honestly. I've seen black cars have a lot worse swirling and hazing than this thing does, so I would imagine it's stayed inside most of its life in Japan just because the paint just seems to have really good gloss and luster still to it. And this is actually a black metallic, which is a rare color for the MRs. Most of the time when you see black cars out of Japan, they're just a single stage black, but much like Nissan's 732 color, this has a really, really deep metallic content in it, so it looks really, really cool when you get the light on it. Interior of this one has been very, very well maintained. Original seats, original steering wheel, original everything except the shift knob. This GTO has 169,000 kilometers. I, at this point, have probably added about 2,000 of those kilometers between the drive back from the port and driving the thing to a few different car shows, driving it around to get food and just hang out. I found every excuse possible to drive this thing. I love it so much. 169,000 kilometers is just a hair over 100,000 miles. So this car's been driven, it's been maintained, it's had service done, but it still is very fresh. It has a lot of life in it, and it drives superbly. Car really needs nothing. It's in fantastic shape. All I've had to do is just have fun with it. One thing that buying this GTO MR and driving it as much as I and everybody else here at Hoshi Motion has taught us one very important thing. We will be buying more. Of course, I would love to find more MR editions. I have a feeling that that's going to be really tough. I'm not going to be able to find one next week. It's going to be kind of a multi-month kind of deal to find another one of these. But in the meantime, I am very much looking forward to just buying more GTOs. These are fantastic cars. And for the money, I think it's the best thing you could buy. It's definitely, in terms of driving experience, it is definitely better than a Mark IV Supra. Let me reiterate that. It is better than a Mark IV Supra. We've had 5 Mark IV Supras now, 3 of those being turbos, and this is just a better car. It's a better car. I'm not saying that because I'm selling it, because I'll probably have Mark IV Supras in the future. I'm just being honest and saying that I like this more. Add on top of that it's got a 4-wheel drive system, and I mean, this could be your only car, seriously. Like if you were a single guy, or you just, you already had like a sedan or something, this could be your only car. It's roomy on the inside. It does everything incredibly well. Damn it, I want one. I said this in the Stadia video too, but like, maybe that's what happens. Maybe I gravitate to making videos of the cars that I just feel really passionate about. I think that's how it works. I'm kind of gonna just like cut it short on talking about the car, because there's really nothing to talk about. There's maybe 1 or 2 tiny door dings. You got a mechanic's hand kind of shallow dent right here on the center of the hood. Underside looks good. Oh, it's got the KYB Rally Art suspension. So it's all factory suspension, but it's adjustable. So it's got a damping adjustment on the top hats of the thing. So you can go around and fine tune the thing if you want to. But yeah, they're KYB. I think they call it Super Special Strut. But that's a factory thing. Might have been an option. Yeah, it's got everything, and everything works really well. I don't even know what else to say about it. Let's drive it. All right, let's give it a rip. Oh man. Oh, it's so torquey. It just rolls onto the power so smooth. But like I said, it's a quiet, smooth, comfortable GT car. There's no creaks, there's no just listen to the interior. It's smooth and it's quiet, and you could drive this thing for thousands of miles. And I don't know, I hope it comes off as me just being a fan, because I'm a huge fan of this car. It's really turned me into, it's converted me into a fan, because I didn't really have strong feelings about the GTO before this. I'll reiterate it again, it's better than a Mark IV Supra, and it's just a pleasure to drive. It's smooth, it's comfortable, it's fast, it sounds good. And we're just in 5th gear cruising along here. Well, I've got another gear I can use. All right, that's gonna do it on this video of this super rare and absolutely fantastic 1997 Mitsubishi GTO MR. If you like these videos, if you like these types of cars, check out our other videos on our YouTube channel right now. Check out the other videos on our YouTube channel right now. We've got some really cool wagons. We've got a Toyota Aristo with the twin turbo 2JZ. And check out our other cars that we have on our website, hoshimotion.com. We do this because we love cars. We're a family business. We're very fortunate that we get to import, work on, and get to drive these absolutely fantastic things, because like, you know, with the example of this GTO, it's one of those things you don't know until you try it. And now that I've tried it, I'm hooked. So yeah, check out our other cars on there. Follow us on Instagram, check us out on Facebook, and subscribe for the next video. Thanks, guys. There's a bobcat living in the woods near here, and I think I just heard it scream at me. It'd be kind of cool if I managed to put up this video and I get mauled by a bobcat in the middle of it.